Hello everyone, and welcome to week 6 of our English 112 critical writing and reading class. I first wanted to start off today's lectures by briefly discussing the credibility narratives. Most of you did very good. For some of you, though, you might have missed the mark, and that's probably because you overthought the assignment. The assignment was not to be a relaying of a series of events, a research paper on what credibility is, nor what telling me about the times you were trustworthy were. It was just to be a specific story. So you didn't need to have a long-winded introduction or anything like that. It's just a 3-page story with descriptive details that demonstrate your credibility. Some of the most successful papers that I viewed actually had to do with the nurses that we have in class. Many of them just went on to describe an event in which they had an interaction with a patient or a doctor, what actually happened, and what the outcome was, and demonstrated their trustworthiness through those interactions with the patients and or doctors in descriptive details. That being said, those of you who did not do so well are offered a chance to revise and redo your paper. If you decide to avail yourself of that option, please know that all revisions and redos are due by 11:59 p.m. on October 13th. You may email those directly to me. Now on to today's lecture, which has everything to do with the defensive side of ethos or establishing your character. Remember that all good arguments always start with what the audience needs. The persuader needs to make you believe that he or she can meet those needs better than anyone else. Remember, again, that trustworthiness first depends on disinterest. This is a merger of your needs and the persuader's. It is rarely far from the surface of choice. The question you want to ask yourself is, does the persuader appear to be the last one to benefit from, or perhaps even be hurt by, the choices being presented? You want to look for short circuits in the argument's examples, commonplaces, and of course choices. This has to do directly with our discussion of the 7 deadly logical sins / fallacies. Trustworthiness also depends on practical wisdom. Does the persuader, in this case you, exhibit common sense? Does the persuader have actual experience with the issue being discussed? Does he or she offer a tale of comparable experience, which is what your first assignment was all about? And finally, does the persuader use phrases like "that depends," or does she or he offer a one-size-fits-all choice? Finally, trustworthiness rests on virtue. This enhances your reputation as well as evaluates the character of another person. Now, according to Aristotle, virtue means a state of character concerned with choice, lying in a mean. But what exactly does that mean for us? Well, first of all, let's unpack it. A state of character does not refer to that of chastity. Rather, we're talking about rhetorical virtue. This kind of virtue is not permanent and exists only in the argument itself. Again, do not confuse rhetorical virtue with morality. Rhetorical virtue adapts to the audience's expectations, not the persuader's. Remember that if the audience believes you to be virtuous, what you did in Las Vegas to disprove that belief does not matter, as long as your audience doesn't know. The second part of the definition is concerned with choice. Remember that virtue comes out of the choices the persuader makes or tries to sell you on. Prevention of choice through distraction or threats, remember those 7 deadly fouls that muck up arguments, is considered unvirtuous. You want to look for arguments being made in the past, which has to do with blame, or the present, which has to do with values, and avoid making them at all costs. Finally, lying in a mean is also known as the sweet spot. This is the heart of deliberative rhetoric. In this instance, mean means in the middle or moderate. A virtuous person is never one extreme or another, i.e., he or she is neither sanctimonious nor a hellraiser, but is pretty much a good partner to have on a Saturday night. The mean lies smack in the middle of an audience's values and has the most appeal. How do you test for virtue? This is an interesting and important question to ask. How does the individual, or you for that matter, describe the mean of an argument? Extremists usually describe the middle course as extreme. What are your special interests? Remember, in the immortal words of the master rhetorician Ice Cube, you better check yourself before you wreck yourself. How do we find the sweet spot? Practical wisdom, or phronesis, which is your answer password for this week's quiz, depends on the persuader's apparent ability to hit the sweet spot of an argument. Assessing the persuader's ability to make a good choice is very important. So how do we assess practical wisdom? First of all, we want to use the "that depends" filter. Does the persuader know or want to know the exact nature of your problem, or is she giving you a one-size-fits-all solution? Next, we'll want to look for a tale of comparable experience. Where exactly did the persuader get their information? A good example of this was in the 2012 campaign for president, President Obama versus Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney wanted the voters to believe that running a corporation would be the same as running the government. He really had no practical experience with that in regards to using that comparison of being head of a successful corporation. Finally, you want to look for sussing ability. This asks, can the persuader cut to the chase of an issue, or does he or she go around and around?